Mr. Brown, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, good morning. My name is Sarah Saunders. I'm the solicitor to the licensing subcommittee, and we're ready to start the meeting. If everyone can hear me and all of us, you can see me. If at any time you lose connection, I can actually see that you've left the meeting, so we will wait for you to rejoin the meeting. So we will stop proceedings there. So to start the meeting, could I please have a nomination of chairman?
It's Councillor Tonkin.
Is that seconded, Councillor Holland?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tonkin as chairman. You'd just like to run us through the preamble and the protocol? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody to this virtual meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Before we move to the formal agenda, I have a few procedure housekeeping issues to deal with. This meeting is being held under the virtual meetings regulations using Microsoft Teams. Could I ask that people mute if they're not actually speaking, because I've got a lot of rustling going on in the background. As I said, this meeting is being held under the virtual meetings regulations using Microsoft Teams. Decisions made by the committee will have the same standing and validity as if they were made at a standard meeting held at the town hall. For those members of the public watching the meeting on the YouTube link, committee members often use more than one screen during the meeting to look at committee papers, which can mean that a member is not looking directly at their camera at any given moment, like I'm not now. We are streaming today's meeting live on the internet, and a recorded version will be available to view within 48 hours on the North Somerset Council website. Members, would you please ensure that your audio is muted when you're not speaking? When you wish to speak, would you please indicate using the chat function? To avoid confusion, please do not use hand signals function. I will invite each of you to speak by way of a queue system. Please only use the chat function to indicate your wish to speak and for official council business. If members are joining by telephone, please could you ensure that you are muted when not speaking by pressing the star button on your telephone. If you are leaving the meeting or returning to the meeting at any point, would you please ensure that I am aware of this by using the chat function. This is paramount in respect of any disclosable pecuniary interests where you are not permitted to participate in the agenda item by law. You should immediately leave the meeting before the start of any debate on an item where you have a disclosable pecuniary interest. A Democratic Services officer will confirm when you have left the meeting, or rejoining the meeting will follow determination of the agenda item. Voting. When proposing a motion, you will please indicate via the chat function that you wish to speak and wait until an invite has been issued. Please then clearly state what you are moving, for example, the recommendation in the report, particularly for the benefit of the public. If you are seconding a motion, please again clearly indicate you wish to speak and wait for me to call you. The vote will then be taken on the basis that you have heard the full debate on the application and state clearly if your vote is for, against the motion or abstain. Please remember to turn on your microphone when voting and mute when you have spoken. If you have not heard the full debate on the applications, please state so and your vote will be marked as an abstention. This will ensure that the vote is accurately recorded and will enable members of the public to properly observe the vote. At the chairman's discretion, voting on procedural matters such as confirmation of the minutes will be done in reverse order and en bloc. That is, the chairman will ask for votes against the motion first, then abstentions, and all other voting committee members in the meeting will be taken en bloc as voting for the motion. Before I move to the agenda, are there any questions from councillors? Can all members see and hear today's proceedings? Please ensure all mobiles are switched off. Ros, can you please undertake the roll call for today? Can I pass it over to you then? Thank you. Thank you, Ros.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Tonkin. So I'll just, you could just indicate present if you're here. So Councillor Andy Cole,
Muted.
Present.
thank you. Councillor Nicola Holland,
Present.
Councillor James Tonkin,
Present. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ros. Can I first announce officially the three members of this panel? We've got Councillor Andy Cole, Councillor Nicola Holland, and I'm chairing this meeting, and I'm Councillor James Tonkin. I'll move to the agenda now. Can we have the case officer? Is she present? Who's the case?
Councillor Tonkin, I understand Amanda's prepared the report, but she's struggling with her microphone working at the moment. So I'll present on her behalf, if that's okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, Sue, just a procedural matter, just to interrupt. Can I just clarify that everyone is present, there's no absentees, and no one's put their apologies forward. And can I ask if anyone has any interest or pecuniary otherwise in any of these matters that are being discussed? Nope. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Sue. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Morning, everyone. I'm Sue Isherwood. I manage the licensing team for the council. My colleague Amanda Hodge, who's also on the call, is the licensing officer, who's the case officer for this application. As I say, I'll just present on her behalf this morning because technical difficulties. So the report covers the application for the grant of a club premises certificate for World Football Club. We've done consultations as required by the legislation and have had some objections from residents, which is why the application has been brought before you today. The application came in on the 12th of August from World Football Club for the grant of this club premises certificate under the Licensing Act. And it covers the football club, the changing rooms, as are at World Recreation Ground in Station Road in World. A copy of the application that's been made is shown at Appendix A of the papers. If I could just draw your attention to the fact that during the reproduction of the papers, there are a couple of pages that have inadvertently slipped off the PDF. The pages that are missing actually cover the application for the sale and supply of alcohol to members and guests. I just wanted to confirm that we have got a valid application and the supply of alcohol as listed by Amanda within that table there, a little further at 3.5. The timings and the application for alcohol are valid and are part of the application. So that's just a clarification for you there. The premises is a changing room with showers, toilets for players and officials, as a kitchen and a leisure lounge area and some public toilets. And a copy of that layout is attached to Appendix B at the end of this report. There are residential properties within 100 metres of the premises. And a copy of that location plan of where that premises is situated is shown at Appendix D in your papers. As mentioned, the club are looking to supply alcohol on a Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 7:30 or 10 and 6. They want to cover some bank holiday fixtures, cup finals, tournaments and some fundraising events. The consultation process, so copies were served to the different responsible authorities and advertised at the site. There was an advertisement in the local paper. And in relation to the main 4 licensing objectives, we didn't have any representations from any of the responsible authorities on any of those headings. But we did have 2 representations in relation to public nuisance and the protection of children from harm, which came from local residents. Copies of the representations are shown at Appendix C of your papers. And whilst we have withheld the details of those representations for public papers, we can verify that they are genuine representations, and we have details of those on the licensing record. The police contacted the club following the application, had a discussion around some conditions, and the applicants agreed at that point to add a challenge 25 age policy to their application. There will be CCTV fitted to cover the lounge area, and the building, at the front of the building, the security fence, and that will be at a standard condition of 31 days retention and available to us upon request. And they also agreed to limit their non-standard timings, in effect extra hours, to be 20 occasions in any calendar year. The screen's freezing. It does. So for the purposes of this report, the committee, after you've heard the details of the application and from various parties, can then opt to grant the application as it's applied for, grant the application with modifications to either dates or timing of licensable activities or conditions, or refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Are there any questions at this stage for the case officer? No.
Could I just ask, have the licensing premises been operating as the football club has been operating as a licensed premises under TENS or previously, or any occasions?
Yes, they have. I think from checking the records when the application came in, they've had temporary event notices in 2015 and 18, I think, and quite recently, because we were under obviously we couldn't grant the licence whilst this process was happening. They've had 4 temporary event notices fairly recently to cover the summer season.
And could you just explain to everybody, temporary event notices, how many can you have within one calendar year?
You can have 15 at any one premise throughout a calendar year. They can be up to 7 days in duration. There are other restrictions about maximum numbers of days and times that you can use. But yes, you could in effect cover up to 7 days with each of those, up to a maximum of 21 days, I believe it is.
21 days. And no conditions are attached to those TENS unless it's a licensing premises with conditions.
Yes, TENS is a notification process only. So the applicant will notify us that they wish to hold an event. We consult with the police and the environmental protection teams, and if there are no immediate objections to those, then the event will go ahead. But no, you're right, there aren't any conditions attached to any of those at the time of use.
Okay, so it's better for any objectors who wanted conditions, or any responsible authorities who wanted conditions for a licensed premises to be licensed, as it were, rather than to rely on TENS.
Yeah, that's what we would normally advise.
Yeah.
Monetary wise as well, to do individual applications, it's £21 each time you do that, and it's quite a bureaucratic process to get those through the system each time. For the ease of the club, it's better for them to have a permanent licence in place to use as and when they can. And as you say, that would also then protect residents, because the police and other agencies can add conditions to control those events at the time.
Lovely, thank you. That's from me.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you, Sarah. Hang on, Councillor Holland first, and then Councillor Cole.
Can I ask, during the TENS events, during the temporary events, have any complaints ever been made regarding the club, regarding any behaviour from people leaving?
No, there's not been any complaints as a result of any of the TENS at the premises.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Yeah, the proposed area for selling alcohol does seem quite confined, quite small. So are there any restrictions on the number of people being able to use that space at any one time?
The actual occupancy numbers are not something that we condition anymore on licences, because they're covered under primary fire safety order regulations. So the club themselves would be required to do a fire risk assessment and set their own occupancy within there. I think probably what they would use it for would be more to use it as the sale and the bar area, but to permit people to be able to bring their drinks out into the external area directly outside to be able to watch whilst having that drink.
Yeah, because Mr. Bryan's submission says that he's got seating for 60 people outside and 40 within an awning on the 60 on the inside and 40 within an awning on the outside. So that's that one.
I did
Okay.
note as well, Mr. Bryan. Sorry, James. I did note as well, Mr. Bryan's statement said that he would only allow plastic glasses too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave anything else for his submission in a bit. Otherwise, you won't have anything to say. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? No. Okay. Is there anybody here who would like to make representation against the application? Is there? I don't know if there are any. There's two people that I can't see on this call, and I'm not quite sure who they are.
So there's no nobody has joined the meeting to object. I think that's right, isn't it, Sarah? Is that your understanding?
Yes, I haven't been notified that anybody wishes to partake as objectors. We have two written objections, which you've all seen and you've all read, but no one has notified me that they wish to give oral objections. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So are there any, having read the two sets of representation against, are there any questions that you want to ask on those at this point? No. Okay, well, we'll move on then to, does the applicant wish to speak? Mr. Bryan, do you wish to make representation to the committee?
Mr. Bryan, you might be on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear now?
I can do, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I think
Mr. Bryan, sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. We did get your submission, which the councillors have seen. I wondered if it's easier for you to read that submission so that anybody watching this meeting on the YouTube channel would be able to hear your oral submission. And I think maybe that's a good way to proceed first of all. Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Brilliant, thank you.
The football club was founded in 1899. It has been part of village life in World to a greater or lesser degree for over 120 years and is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, active football club in North Somerset and has been playing its matches on World Recreation Ground for the past 60 plus years. With council budgets being cut over the years, volunteers have stepped in to act as unpaid groundsmen. With advice from the Institute of Groundsmen, IOG, the club spends £2,000 to £3,000 annually maintaining the grounds, including fertilising, levelling, seeding and cutting the grass. Over the years, the ground has been improved from having a cricket pitch, which was too dangerous to use, and a football pitch, which was continually flooding, having one of the best pitches in the county league, and a recreation ground used by villagers and regularly for organised football by young people up to veterans. In 2012, it became uneconomical to continue repairing the original wooden pavilion, which was being subjected to acts of vandalism and attempted arson. Steps to find an alternative pitch proved fruitless. After obtaining the necessary consents and planning permission, the club obtained a small grant from Sport England and together with fundraising and help from a local builder, volunteer tradesmen and students of Weston College, the wooden structure was demolished and replaced with the current larger structure. The club is affiliated to the Somerset County FA and has two teams. The first team play in the Premier Division of the Somerset County League and the reserve team play in Division 1 of the Western Supermare and District League. The club is a charter standard club, which is a league requirement and means that the club, its officers, its players and spectators have to conform to strict codes of conduct directed by the Football Association. Offers of the club have to attend many seminars and courses covering subjects such as diversity, safeguarding and first aid. The club is also required to have a welfare officer. Another condition is to have a safety barrier, and in September all clubs had to appoint a COVID officer who was required to produce a COVID risk assessment, which had to be presented to the respective leagues before teams were committed to commence playing. Clubs are also obliged to comply with government COVID regulations concerning use of premises. With ever-increasing costs and limited resources of finance, licensed bars play an important part in the sustainability of clubs. Most clubs have fully licensed bars, but we have opted to apply for a club licence because we do not wish to become a public house, but to provide social drinking for members for limited periods on match days and a few fundraising events. We play teams from Watchet, Chard, Ilminster, etc., and it's normal practice in the county league to socialise and provide refreshments after a match for opponents. The persons likely to use the facility are already at the ground to attend the football match, and therefore there should be no increased need for parking. There is a locked overflow car park at the opposite side of the ground which could be opened if necessary. The club does not propose to serve alcohol in glasses, which will negate the concern regarding broken glass, preferring instead to use cans and plastic glasses when necessary. Excluding restrictions from COVID, the inside lounge area has seating for 60 persons and outside patio area has seating for 40 persons. There are two retractable awnings covering part of the patio area, covering part of the patio area. Interior and exterior areas are covered by regulatory standard CCTV. The club has obtained several temporary events licences over the past couple of years, which included one for an all-day six-a-side tournament and barbecue, at which over 100 players attended. We have also hosted League Cup finals and had licences for league games. There were no incidents at the licensed events and no one has ever been over-imbibed. The number of members and opponents using the facility after recent licensed Saturday afternoon matches averaged 45, and the facility was vacated by 7:30, 1930. Excluding times when the club has held temporary events licences, it sells up to a total of 150 cans of drinks such as Coca-Cola and Tango, etc. on a weekend. All waste is stored in designated areas within the building and collected by a licensed waste disposal contractor as necessary. Because the premises are largely unattended and the contractor is unable to give an exact time when the waste will be taken, one of our volunteers leaves the waste to be collected in black heavy-duty sacks inside the compound by the car park entrance on his way to work on the appointed day. The contractor has the code for the padlock on the gate and removes the waste, which saves the necessity of someone having to be in attendance to open up. Should this practice not be considered acceptable, then we would revise it, although it does seem no more inappropriate than putting bins out in the street for household waste collections. The club has a good relationship with residents in adjoining apartments. Many say how much better the outlook is now the wooden structure has been replaced. Some contact us if they see people acting suspiciously or damaging the grounds. And since the public toilets in the car park were demolished by the council, many people, including parents and children using the play area, ask if they can use the toilets when the club is open. The tractor tyre was brought to the recreation ground by a group of ladies who hold Zumba classes a couple of evenings a week during the summer months on the grassed area between the changing rooms and children's playground. They asked if they could store it in the compound and we were not aware it was considered a problem. We are prepared to ask the owners to remove it or have it removed ourselves if required to do so. Other points which we think ought to be considered in the area is dog excrement. This might be considered a higher risk to children than granting the club licence. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, Councillor Tonkin, you're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bryan, for that submission. Can I ask you, what's your position in the club?
I'm the club secretary. I've been there nearly 40 years.
Fair play. Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Brine? No?
None from me. Any questions that I had before were answered with Mr. Brown's statement.
Okay, fine. Right. No questions from officers? No, at this stage? No. Okay, thank you. Right, would the case officer like to sum up? Please.
Thank you, Councillor Tonkin. Just to say, take account of what you've heard today and the representations in front of you and determine the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Right, well, thank you, everybody. I will now ask that any non-council members or officers to withdraw for a short while we deliberate on the application. Thank you. So if Mr. Brine would like to withdraw, or we will withdraw Mr. Brine, and we'll bring you back in a minute once we've made a decision. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brine, you can come back in by clicking on the link, and anyone else who's not participating in this. And I presume, Mike, that the YouTube channel link will be in abeyance for a while. Has he come back to me?
Yes, I can suspend the link.
He's just said okay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brine, would you please leave the meeting and then come back in probably in about 10 minutes?
Yep. Right, I got sound at last.
There's
Thank you,
Good.
Mr. Bryan, and thank you for
Hang on.
joining us.
Okay, thank you all very much for your patience while we were out, and after much deliberation we've decided to grant the application subject to the conditions to be attached to the licence suggested by the police, which Sarah will now read out.
Okay, those conditions that the Avon and Somerset Police have asked for are, as we heard before, a Challenge 25 age related policy. The CCTV will be fitted to cover the lounge area of the building and the licence area between the front of the building and the security fence. This CCTV will be of a standard satisfactory to the licensing authority and police. Images will be stored for a minimum of 31 days and made available on request for evidential purposes. And the third condition, non-standard times to be between 10 o'clock and 11 p.m. hours for the maximum of 20 occasions in any calendar year. These conditions plus the other conditions will be attached to the club premises licence, and a full decision letter from me will be sent to you, Mr. Bryan, and to the objectors, copies to the objectors within 5 working days. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you all for your attendance. Sue, thank you for your part in it, Amanda, and all the other officers present, and members, of course, for your deliberations. Thank you. Good
Thank you,
afternoon.
Chair. We did lose Mr. Bryan at the end, but I think one of us will phone him or email him and just made sure he actually heard all of that. I noticed he dropped out, but I think I had just finished speaking.